Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the, what month is it? The February CVB Power Lunch for the Cocoa Beach Regional Chamber of Commerce. If you have not had a chance to meet me yet, I'm Jennifer Sugarman. I'm the president and CEO of the Chamber, and I want to welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being flexible and joining us virtually. One of the benefits of doing these virtually is we get people that aren't necessarily local. So I'm really excited to welcome our speaker today. She joined us last during, I think it was month 2 of the shutdown and back in May of 2020. So we're really excited to hear from her some updates on what's going on in our tourism community for the state and how that may trickle down to us locally here on the Space Coast. But before we get to Dana Young, who is the President and CEO of Visit Florida, we do have a sponsor with us today, which we're super appreciative for their support, and they're going to give us an update on what's going on here locally and about their initiatives. So I have Matt with us from Brightline. I think we have 1 or 2 people here from Brightline, right, Matt? So I'm just going to welcome you, introduce you, and for both of our speakers today, feel free to just share your screen with the group, and we'll get started. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. It's 12:05. I have Katie Mitzner on with me as well. She's our public outreach coordinator. And I don't know, Katie, do you want to take the start, or do you want me to run through the slide? I might be having some audio issues. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share the slide, yes, and then I'll run through what's going on with Brightline. Give me 1 second. All right, can everybody see that?
No, not yet. Did you hit the green share screen button at the bottom?
Yeah, bear with me here.
Not a problem. We've all grown used to Zoom and technology and labs.
Yeah, you know, I'm usually
there you go.
Teams person. Okay, so you can see that.
Yes, we can.
All right. So just one quick slide here. So Brightline, I guess introducing myself, I'm the assistant project manager for Brightline. My section, zone 3, is from Orlando International Airport to the Cocoa Curve. So anything between the east-west section falls under my purview. Katie Mitzner is on. She does our public affairs and public outreach. What we're going to go through today is an upcoming operation that we have that's going to be impacting traffic around the 528 and US 1 area. So our contractor, Granite Construction, is constructing a box jack system. So this is a system that constructs, it's more or less a tunnel that we're going to push under 528. This tunnel is going to allow the Brightline rail corridor to connect from the FECR railway along the west side of US 1 and cut over to the north side of 528 and head to the west. This box jack structure consists of 3 segments that are constructed off-site, and you can kind of see in the picture in the bottom right, those are the 3 segments that are being constructed right at the southwest quadrant of US 1 and 528. Now, each one of those segments weighs about 3,500 tons. They're going to be pushed by a set of jacks under 528. In order to do that, we're going to have to do a traffic diversion of 528 and some ramp closures at US 1 and 528. So you can see on the slide, the start date will be March 15th. And on March 15th, we will take eastbound and move it up into westbound. We're going to single lane 528 on westbound only, so one going east and one going west. That will facilitate an open cut operation where Granite will dig out 528, and they'll start pushing those segments that you see. The first one, the closest one to the left, will be the first one that gets pushed across 528. So they'll push it into place. They'll push the second one behind it. They'll push that one forward, and we'll work our way across 528 up to the eastbound and westbound traffic flow that's on westbound. Once we get up to the traffic, we then put traffic on top of the boxes, eastbound and westbound, and we push those boxes actually under traffic as it's moving. This is a really cool operation for the engineers out there. This is the first time it's being done in Florida on a DOT roadway. We did something very similar to this, a box jack operation on Goldenrod about a year ago. But this, to me, is one of the coolest things that we'll do on the Brightline project. So it is, we're bringing in a company from Spain, Petruco, and they do these around the world. They're actually quarantining right now so that they can come in and be safe, COVID safe when they come to push. So yeah, we'll be starting, we'll be finishing March 30th. There's 2 detours that occur, one to go into the box jack traffic control plan and one to get out of it. Those detours will be full detours of eastbound and westbound 528. We'll be sending traffic down to 520 Alpha Clear Lake, back up US 1 and back on to 528. So just a little jog down to the south. That's about it. The short and sweet version, the 5-minute version. I'm ready to take questions if you have any, and I can definitely go into more detail about Brightline if you want, but only the east-west. I can't talk about going south.
Thanks, Matt. And yes, you're welcome to share more details, especially if we get some questions that expand upon that. And Katie is on. She messaged me. She's not sure if her audio is working. She might try to unmute and keep trying. But if anyone has a question for Matt, I don't see any in the chat box yet, but feel free to type it or unmute and ask Matt. Just make sure you unmute and then mute yourself back. Any questions for Brightline? I have one for you.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I have one for you. How has, okay, good. My question, and then I'll move over to, I think it's Matt that has a question, has COVID and some of the impacts from COVID economically, has that impacted construction at all, or your plans to move forward in terms of a timeline?
So yes and no for us. On the construction side, COVID has actually made it a little bit easier to build the alignment because traffic has not been as heavy on 528. So since traffic counts have been down, we've been able to utilize some daytime lane closures, which have facilitated an easier construction and safer construction for the traveling public. I had mentioned earlier about the Petruco guys coming over from Spain. That's actually been the first real negative impact in terms of construction that we've seen, where a crew couldn't get to the United States because of the Corona travel ban for that region, for Europe.
Very good. Thank you very much. I know Matt had a question. It's in the chat. He can also unmute, but it was what projects you have lined up, I believe, next.
Future projects. So I don't, if Katie is on and wants to talk about that one, I can touch on it, but she's an expert on it.
Katie, is your audio working yet? She was trying.
All right, so I'll touch on it. So we are currently working on heading to
Can
Disney.
you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah.
We can hear you. Welcome. We can hear you,
We
Katie.
could hear you, Katie.
Maybe
All
you
right.
could start, Matt, and she'll jump back in.
Yeah, I'll take it till she jumps back in. So we're currently working on going to Disney, and with going to Disney is going to Tampa. So that is our current undertaking. That is in the higher level above me of getting approved through the DOT, but that is our current outlook for the next alignment. We still got to build this one first, so that's my job, is getting this first one built before we head to the west.
To piggyback off of that and your job, when do you think that your portion will be completed? So
we anticipate the railway use functionality of the rail and passengers mid-23. We will be done substantial completion with the project prior to that, and you will see trains running, but that will be them testing and running through the signal tests that are required by the FRA for us to get approval of the high speed. So our high speed in this section is 125, and 125 requires some additional signalization testing and approvals from the FRA to get. And that 125 is near St. John's is the fastest where we're going.
And Jen, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know what was going on with Zoom. So yes, Matt's absolutely correct. So we are looking to be, we have 2 more years of construction with substantial completion at the end of 22, and then testing begins at that point. So we're at about 50% completion right now, and right on target for where we want it to be.
Matt and Katie, I heard that they're looking at possibly at the curve putting in a station. Is that something that's still under consideration?
So yes, stations between West Palm and Orlando are still definitely in consideration, and the details are still being determined. We have committed to a station in the Treasure Coast and a station in the Space Coast. And we've committed to stations there within 5 years of service starting. So nothing's been decided in terms of exact locations, but definitely something that we're continuing to look at. And obviously our first priority is getting this extension complete. It's a $2.7 billion project. We have more than 1,000 people working on it right now. And we've put in 2.7 million man hours. So that's the priority right now, but yes, stations to come down the road.
Great.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have a follow-up question. Can you talk about the time a rider will spend on the train in between stops?
Sure. So the route from Orlando to Miami will be 3 hours and 15 minutes. Certainly we will have trains that we'll probably have everything from trains that make frequent stops at different stations to trains that may be express trains, but we're looking at 3 hours and 15 minutes from Miami to Orlando.
Thank you. Any other questions for Brightline? You can unmute and ask. Now would be the time.
I have a quick question. How loud is a train, a high-speed train, as it comes through Brevard? Is it a loud train, or are they fairly quiet?
So, we want to, make it clear that this is a high-speed train, biodiesel. The longest that this train would be 12 cars. So that would be 10 passenger cars and 2 locomotives. If you haven't had an opportunity to ride our train down in South Florida, we will be beginning service again. We had to suspend for COVID, but we'll be starting up service the end of this year. And so I encourage everyone, if you have an opportunity to go down to South Florida to ride the train and see just how quiet it is. The trains, obviously move quickly. Certainly we will have certain max speeds. As Matt mentioned, it will be 125, but that will be in a straightaway along 528. The fastest it will go between Cocoa and West Palm would be 110, but certainly as it's going through crossings and those areas, they will be under that speed. But it's quiet. This is not a freight train. It's not any more than 12 cars long. It's going to be very smooth, brand new Siemens train sets. And so from a noise perspective, we just encourage everyone to go and experience it, because it's a very quiet form of travel, and it's very it's not a loud freight train going by.
Thank you very much. And we have time for one more question, which we just had entered into the chat, and that is, how about Disney to Cocoa? Any plans for that?
From Disney to Cocoa. So we have, we are working with Disney. We did have an announcement last year that we're working on a station location at Disney. So with regards to getting to Disney, yes, Disney is part of our Tampa extension, which we'll be working on. We're starting the work on that right now. We're at about 15% design. And so, yes, down the road, you will be able to get from Orlando International Airport to Disney and on to Tampa. And then it just depends where other stations will be along the route.
Wonderful. Well, Katie and Matt, thank you both so much for your sponsorship of today's virtual lunch, and also for all the great information. We appreciate it. And if you could please put your contact information in the chat, that way if someone has a direct question for you that they wish they had asked, they can get a hold of you after this. That would be great. Matt, I am going to ask that you stop sharing your screen so we can get ready for our next speaker. And again, just thank you both so much for being here and for your sponsorship. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, and with that, I'm going to introduce, yeah, no, thank you, I appreciate it. With that, I'm going to introduce our speaker today, and we also have Leslie and Jen on from Visit Florida, but Dana Young, like I said, is the CEO of Visit Florida, which is our state's tourism entity. We are so happy to hear that you were just funded again. I know it's not quite what it used to be, but we're just so glad that you're still around and very much able to carry out your mission. I think if we've learned one thing legislatively, it's that the importance of promoting our state is crucial in a post-COVID economy. So just want to welcome Dana Young to the program, and thank you so much for being here and for talking to us almost 1 year later. And certainly a lot has happened. So Dana, I won't launch into your long bio, which is impressive, but I want to have time to get your presentation in and lots of question and answer time. So welcome, Dana. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you everyone for having me today. It's great to be here. And yes, we were funded in the last legislative session at $50 million. And believe it or not, next week kicks off this legislative session where we get to do it all over again. But we feel very confident. People understand that our role has never been more important than it is today. In terms of reviving our tourism economy. And that's what I want to talk to you about. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information on how our state economy has been impacted by COVID-19. And then we'll talk about what we at Visit Florida have been doing with our rebound, and also some specifics on how the Space Coast has been involved in a lot of our rebound marketing. So I'm excited to be able to share that with you. But first, let's just talk briefly on the importance of tourism in our economy. Tourism is our #1 industry here in the state of Florida. In 2019, that was our 10th record year of visitation. We had 131 million visitors, and tourism generated $97 billion for our economy and employed 1.6 million Floridians. So who could have ever imagined that just a year later, here we are, and we just reported our numbers last week for 2020, and we are down about 34%. We had, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So in late 2019, the state economist predicted, as she was giving the legislature the long-term economic outlook, she said that tourism-related losses pose the greatest potential risk to Florida's economic outlook. So how clairvoyant was that? Because, you know, here we are. You know, I hate to say that that she was right, but she is. So in 2020, we had 86.7 million visitors to the state, which, you know, is still a lot, but certainly not at the levels that we would like. We're down 34%. The vast majority of those, not surprisingly, were domestic visitors, 82.2 million domestic and 4.5 million international. So Canada, UK, Latin America, Germany. And those numbers include the first quarter. And if you all remember, it was really around mid-March last year that things really changed. Q1 was down, but it wasn't down quite at the levels that the rest of the year were. You probably know that in Florida, the tourism sector generates the highest level of sales tax of any other sector in our economy. So the recovery of our tourism industry really will dictate when the rest of our state economy will recover. Next slide. So as Florida's official destination marketing organization, our program positively impacts really every Floridian. And this is because the majority of our taxes in Florida wonderfully are paid for by people who do not live here. So our tourism marketing is very, very important, and it positively impacts every Florida taxpayer. And the state economist just released a 3-year report indicating, as you see here, that our return on investment is $3.27 for every dollar that we're appropriated. So we very much make money for the state of Florida while also producing fantastic results. So we know from experience that the more visitors that we're able to attract, the more tax revenue, obviously, that is generated, and that it means more people are getting jobs and the economy can grow. And while we are still a long way from the finish line, we are seeing some positive trends. And one is that directly coinciding with the launch of our in-state and domestic campaigns, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, we saw a pretty significant increase in visitation. So between Q2 and Q3, we saw a 71% increase in the number of people that came to Florida. And we attribute that to our marketing, our in-state campaign, which again, I'll talk about in just a second. They both were very, very, very significant in their impact. And I want to add one thing that's not on the slide. Longwoods International, which is a tourism industry research company, released a report this week that they found that 81% of Americans are saying that they are going to take a vacation in the next 6 months. So the fact that we are in market now and have been since August is tremendous, because we're really the only voice out there right now. And so we are very, very well positioned to not only be able to more quickly rebuild our market share, but to increase it. Because as far as we know, no other states are actively marketing at all outside their boundaries. So back in March, we started putting together a comprehensive travel recovery plan. And in August, we launched our in-state travel campaign. We wanted to remind Floridians how lucky they were, how lucky we all are to live here in Florida, and encourage them to get out and support the businesses, the hotels, the restaurants, the attractions, and so forth that were hurting so much from the pandemic. And also to see parts of the state that maybe they had never visited. So this campaign, I'm going to show you the ad. We really love it. It harnessed the pride of Floridians and directed it toward the beginning of the economic recovery. So hopefully you saw this ad, but I'm going to show it to you right now.
We wake up to it every day. The wonderment, the warmth. Where else can you just step outside for an epic sunset? Snap a postcard from your own backyard. Discover treasures on any old Tuesday. Enjoy a weekend where the world vacations. We live here because we love here. A place unlike anywhere else in the world is the place we call home.
So that was that was in market in Florida on broadcast TV and also in all of our other channels. So hopefully you saw that. There were tremendous co-op opportunities with that campaign. We had 13 destinations, including the Space Coast, as you can see, that participated in that. And if you go to visitflorida.org, you can see even more examples of some of the content that you all provided. But we were very, very proud to be able to feature the Space Coast in this in-state rebound campaign. And I'm not sure if this is a video or if it's just some examples. It is a video. your very own backyard. And I think it all turned out really great, and the results were amazing. So we had 302 million impressions from the instant campaign, and that was just in Florida. And for just trips booked by Floridians on the Expedia platform, we generated 774,000 room nights, $40 million in gross bookings. And we're really proud of the return on ad spend, which was $133 for every dollar we spent. So I would say that is a very successful campaign. And we followed very soon after the launch of that in October with our domestic campaign. So this was directed outside the state at drive markets within roughly 700 miles of the state of Florida. As you can see, we continue to increase the visitors as we launch these. And this campaign primarily aired in our major drive markets like Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte, Birmingham, Nashville, and then as far north as Philadelphia. So I want to show you this ad.
There you are. But what if instead you were here? That one letter difference changes everything. Here shifts your perspective. Because vacations are less about what you do and more about what they do to you. So give yourself over to the sounds of waves washing up on shore. To naps on the beach, to full days without shoes or shirts or worries. Say yes to something new. Try conch, try the front row, try this. When you do, something happens that's indescribable. You are more you. They are more them. You see each other in a brighter light, and the warmth of those moments never fades. Somehow, a vacation can take you to exactly where you need to be, which is, of course, here. That's the power of a Florida vacation.
So I think you saw some familiar sites in that video as well. And it was similarly as successful as the in-state campaign, 330 million impressions, a huge return on ad spend, 135 to 1, 362,000 room nights sold directly on Expedia, $222 million in gross bookings. So to put that in perspective, those two campaigns had over 630 million impressions. The Super Bowl has 91 million viewers. So these are massive numbers. And we're really pleased to be able to do this for the people of the state of Florida. So I want to talk a little bit about an integrated marketing effectiveness study, which is a very big word, but it actually is pretty cool because you've seen the ads now. We don't really push safety and washing your hands and mask wearing and all of that in the ads, but the message with the wide open spaces was very well received, and it impacted the way people view our state in a very positive way. So we did this study, and of the people who saw our ads in November, 55% agreed that Florida residents and visitors follow health and safety guidelines. 70% agree that Florida is safe and secure. And that's compared to 26% and 41% respectively for people that did not see the ads. So we were able, with a very gentle message, to push this safety message, the fact that there are ample opportunities for wide open spaces and a safe vacation. And significantly, Floridians who saw the in-state digital campaign that you all were heavily involved in, they were twice as likely to take a trip in Florida. And people who saw the domestic campaign were 1.7 times more likely to take a trip to Florida than those who didn't. So that just shows that marketing works, and we are clearly out in market with the right message at the right time. And now we are in market today. We've been in market about 3 weeks, I think, with our Winter Sun Seekers campaign. This is something we do every year, the bragging season, where we have this gorgeous weather like we're having today. And lots of people are stuck in rain and snow and cold temperatures, and they're absolutely miserable. So we are in market all over the United States, primarily in cold weather destinations. And for the first time, we're actually marketing in the Western US, so Washington, Oregon, and California. Because typically these folks will go to Mexico or to Hawaii on their spring vacations, winter spring vacations. But this year, those destinations are not as available to them. And we have the benefit of having several direct flights from these areas to Florida. So we're very excited to see how our marketing comes out in those areas. Canada, as you all probably know, the borders with Canada are still closed. So we have lost many of our Canadian snowbirds, which is a very, very sad thing. But we have maintained our in-country representation in Canada, as we have in all of our key international markets. And we have been doing some marketing in Canada so that we stay top of mind, and we are at the top of everybody's list when they're able to travel again. So on February the 18th, we launched what is known as Wanderlust Florida. It's a series about different destinations in Florida that we did in partnership with the Canadian Weather Network and Air Canada. And the first episode, there are 4 episodes. The first one debuted on February 18th. And it featured the Space Coast, which is just awesome. So it featured Ron John Surf Shop, and there were some surfing lessons. There was bioluminescent kayaking with BK Adventures, and obviously we featured also the Kennedy Space Center. So that is something that if you look on the Weather Network, you should probably be able to access a link to that if you want to see it. And if you can't find it, then just call Jen Carlisle or myself, and we can help you get that information. So moving on to some other Brevard specific information. Since fall 2019, Brevard County partners and businesses with Visit Florida have participated in 5 Visit Florida press trips. Were included in Visit Florida press releases that generated more than 95.3 million impressions. Featured in 4 Visit Florida promotions that garnered 18.5 million impressions and just over $1 million in earned media value. We also partnered with an organization called CAMP on a Travel Tuesday program initiative where families participated in a virtual event in 8 locations around Florida every week. The kickoff event featured the Kennedy Space Center. The campaign engaged directly nearly 3,000 households and garnered 10 million impressions through the event's custom online and email content and retargeting efforts. So we continue to feature Cocoa Beach and other areas of the Space Coast in our content on visitflorida.com and across our social media platforms. So if you're inclined, check that out. We've got a lot of Space Coast in our content right now. And if you do tweet or do Instagram and you're featuring content about your area, if you would use hashtag #LoveFL in your social media content, you can become part of the rich community that we continue to build to leverage our great Florida story. So looking ahead, we are planning to expand our marketing efforts internationally as soon as the borders reopen and travel restrictions ease. The travel situation abroad is very uncertain still, but with the vaccinations continuing to grow and some of the restrictions becoming less onerous, we are really hopeful that we're going to be seeing more international visitors very soon. We have retained, as I said earlier, our in-market in-country representation, just to keep all of our relationships alive, so that again, we're top of mind. People are dreaming about Florida, and we're hearing from international media that the pent-up demand is real, and that people from Europe and Latin America and of course Canada can't wait to get back to Florida. We've done over 40 virtual events in key international markets. And last week we sponsored our annual travel trade show, which usually is in person in Florida, but this year it was virtual, and it was incredibly successful. So we had participation from many of our Florida destinations, and then from the buying side, we had more than 800 buyers, suppliers, travel agents, and media from 18 other countries. Nearly 7,000 appointments were done in 3 days. And I did almost 40 interviews myself with international media. So it was a big undertaking. It was highly successful. Real business was done and real trips were booked. So that was great. Now, just a really quick update on the legislative side of things, since you mentioned that. This year we are advocating legislation. We have Senator Ed Hooper and House of Representatives member Renee Placencia sponsoring our bills. And it's very simple. We would just remove the sunset date of 2023 completely, so that we can focus on the marketing that's so important, and just stop having to go back every year or two and fight for our existence. It's just a huge distraction. And frankly, having served in the legislature, I can tell you the reality of it is that the legislature can sunset any organization at any time. And they pretty much have full control because they control the budget. So they can zero us out even without a sunset date. So we would just remove the sunset provision, and we would clarify that we could also carry forward funds in a situation where we have to pause marketing because of a crisis like a hurricane, or in this situation, the pandemic, because obviously the money can be used for the recovery, as we did this year. And the last thing we want is to pause marketing and then have to revert the money back to the state and not have any funding available for recovery. So with that, that is what we are doing in the legislature. The governor has recommended level funding for us at $50 million, which we are delighted with. And we are just going forward with a newfound optimism that things are going to be fine, and that we will be able to continue doing the great marketing work that we're doing right now. So with that, I am happy to take questions, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dana. You're always a wealth of information. And let me just say firsthand, please count on the Chamber's support for your legislative priority there, because it is on our agenda. So happy to support that. And certainly the work you do just shines through in your marketing ads and everything else. And Florida's better for having Visit Florida around. So thank you for what you do. I know your team has taken some hard knocks over the past few years, and we're just so glad that you've persevered through that, and for everything that you've done for the state of Florida. So with that, I'm going to move over to questions, and I'm sure I could have several of them, but I'm going to leave them for our audience here. I'm going to go to David Pombeck. He says that he has a question for you. David, if you'll unmute yourself and ask your question to Dana.
Dana, good job. Commercials are great. What is Visit Florida doing in terms of social media, and maybe specifically a lot of the millennial generation is moving to Instagram away from Facebook? And I'll let you answer.
All of our campaigns, the ones that I showed you, and the winter campaign that's in market right now, are fully integrated marketing campaigns, meaning that they have every aspect of marketing. So from some TV, out of home, which is billboards, and the full gamut of social media platforms, we are doing all of that. We're also doing addressable TV, which is being able to target specific set-top boxes. And so we are able to show our message to consumers who are ready to travel now, based on their browsing histories and so forth. So we are leveraging every aspect of digital marketing that's available. And I think we're doing a really great job.
You are doing a great job, and thank you very much. Sarah Allman has her hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for such a great informative presentation. This might seem a little off topic, but relevant. When you mentioned that you participated in that recent conference that was fully digital, can you talk a little bit about that experience, how it varied from a typical trade show, and how you felt like it was able to be carried out with such success?
Absolutely. And I have been at the Florida huddles in the past 2 years that were in person, so I can contrast that. This particular show lent itself very well to the virtual format. We went through a vendor that put the show on for us. We had, you would log in, and there were various breakout rooms, and everything was very sequential, very logical. And one of the beautiful things about this is that for the first time ever, we were able to include international travel agents in the programming. And so we had over 400 travel agents participate. Typically the cost would be too high, but because it was virtual, they were able to participate. And there was specific travel agent content on Friday. So we had master classes is what we call it. So different destinations around the state, probably the Space Coast. I don't have the list, but I bet you guys were involved in that. We're able to do specific presentations directly to travel agents about your destination. And so it was just very, very engaging. And we were thrilled with it. And in fact, it went so well that we almost certainly will have a virtual component next year when we plan to hold it. We're holding it in Tampa. But we will have a virtual component so that those that couldn't participate in person can still be a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's very smart. Thank you.
Absolutely. And 7,000 appointments in 3 days. I mean, that is real work right there. Real commerce.
Yes, it is. That's fantastic. And thanks for sharing that with us, because more and more, obviously, we're having to do major events in a virtual capacity. So that's good to know that it's worked for you. And so I do want to mention, just give a shout out to our local Space Coast Office of Tourism. They are listening in today, and they've certainly partnered with you several times along with our Convention and Visitors Bureau. So thank you for what our local office does. We'll certainly be advocating for them and their efforts, as well as, the CVB is more boots on the ground for the Cocoa Beach regional area. And of course, our port, who's also listening in, and we're very much looking forward to safely getting back to cruising this summer, because that'll directly impact the Space Coast economy. So who else has a question for Dana? I'm looking for there's a hand raise feature, which Sarah used, which is very cool. Anybody else? You can just unmute, ask a question. We have a couple more minutes. You're just that good, Dana. You covered everything.
Well, I did cover a lot.
It's Maggie. Hey.
Oh, there you go. Hi, Maggie. Go ahead, ask your question.
Yes. So when you give the figures about how you track the reactions and the results of the ad campaigns, for somebody who is in the travel industry but doesn't quite understand that, could you explain that?
The Integrated Marketing Effectiveness Study?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so that is done by an outside research firm that we contract with, and it's a series of survey questions that are directed at people that we identify as having seen our advertising, and then another group of people that has not, and then we're able to compare the results, or they are able to compare the results and provide some statistical analysis of those results for us.
Thank you. It's very interesting. I like numbers.
Yeah, I mean, everything we do is based on data, more than I ever knew until I got into this position at Visit Florida. Nothing is done that is not data driven. So if you're into like statistics and economics, then, marketing is for you.
That's for sure. And just to throw out some more numbers, you know, we have a great local EDC here as well. And the Space Coast was just rated #2 by the Milken Institute, which it's always better to have other people talk about you. We get paid to do it, and we believe it with all of our hearts, but to have someone else as prestigious as the Milken Institute say that you're #2 for growth and high wage jobs, despite, and that's during 2020, because of how diversified we are, I think that's a wonderful thing and a testament to what the Space Coast has to offer to the state of Florida. But from a tourism perspective, just thank you, Dana, for everything that you and your team do. Like I said, I know it's been a hard few years. We will certainly support you on the legislative side of things. And if there's any other questions, we have time for one more. Any burning desires left? Okay. There you go.
I had a question. Is there anything that we can do? Because, you know, we're, I guess you could say frontline. I mean, talking with people that are, you know, maybe from here, that aren't from here. I mean, is there anything that we can do or say, or maybe a little phrase or something that we can direct people to see this kind of stuff and maybe, you know, enlighten them to the things that we see here that maybe they don't get to see because they're not part of this kind of stuff?
Well, sure. One really easy way is that if you're on any social media platform like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of that, that you post content that's relevant to you about the place that you live, and you use #LoveFL on that content, because then we're able to you know, boost that on our social media channels. So that's one way. It's super easy. It's free. And it helps us expand the reach that we have. And look, I mean, people, the person-to-person interaction and recommendations and so forth they just can't be surpassed in terms of being able to influence what people do. So it's tremendously helpful. It's authentic content, and you know, it's very helpful to us.
We will certainly be sharing it. Thank you so much, Dana. Amazing information and great presentation. And if there's anything else that the Cocoa Beach Chamber of Commerce or its CVB can do for you, please let us know. You know how to get in touch with us. And thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We have recorded this session, so we'll be sending it out to our entire partnership and on social media. And if you are interested in that Wanderlust series that Dana mentioned, there is a link now in the chat if you'd like to go grab that. And we'll be sharing everyone's contact information in the chat itself. So again, thank you so much, Dana. Thank you, Brightline, our sponsor. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day. I'll keep this open for a few more minutes for networking.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. To answer your question, a copy of the video, if you're in the Chamber's database, you'll receive an email. It'll also be up on our social media. Or you can email me. You're muted, Diane, but bye, if that's what you said. Okay, if anyone has any questions, I'll close out the meeting.